Ring of Honor Wrestling has their biggest pay-per-view of the year this coming Friday night. It is Final Battle time from the UMBC Event Center in Baltimore. And, of course, that can be seen on pay-per-view, Fight.tv, Ring of Honor Honor Club. And one of the matches that you will see this Friday night, an interesting tag team match. Silas Young, who we've had on the show before, teaming up with Josh Woods to take on the Peacock himself, Dalton Castle, and our guest at this time joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. He is the prestigious one. I love the word prestigious. Joe Hendry. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Joe Hendry. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just in awe of that introduction. All that information delivered beautifully.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've done this a time or two, so I try to pump you guys up as best as I can. I'm interested in the fact that you're also a musician, because Austin, Texas, we're known as the live music capital of the world, and I just want to find out your influences. What were your influences as a musician?
So my favorite bands growing up were I liked Weezer. They were my favorite band. That kind of taught me about, if you listen to Weezer's songs, that's just possibly in my opinion, one of the best bands you could listen to learn about songwriting. So I really got into them. Then I kind of, one of my other favorite bands is Fleetwood Mac, and I really got into them. And that kind of, really helped me out with understanding the songwriting side of things. But in terms of the kind of custom entrances and having fun with my entrances, a lot of that influence comes from how much I enjoyed Tenacious D as a teenager. I watched their DVD just hundreds of times. Tenacious D, the Masterworks, I thought was hilarious, and I think that has always stuck with me.
Tenacious D, a great musical act, and I know we've seen them a few times here. So let's switch gears. You've been wrestling now for about 10 years. Give me your influences there. What were, someone that caught your eye that made you say, that's what I want to do with my life?
Well, believe it or not, I take it as a compliment that you think it's 10 years, but I actually started wrestling in 2013.
Okay. So I don't know why I had my mind that you started in like in 08 or 09. I apologize.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Hey, I take it as a compliment. It's for me, my favorite wrestler was The Rock. To me, when he made his entrance, you were just like, that's the guy right there. That's the top talent, bar none, right there. So that's who got me into wrestling. Then beyond that, that kind of hooked me into wrestling. I was a fan of The Rock before I was a fan of wrestling. But then I got into wrestling and I really enjoyed, like I say, I had the wrestling channel back in 2003, 2004. So I actually used to watch Ring of Honor all the way back in 2004 on a channel called the Wrestling Channel in the UK. But we got loads of great wrestling. That, obviously the mainstream stuff that was on TV, but also the old school World of Sport stuff from the 80s as well. So I kind of got into all that. But The Rock was the one that got me into the business. One of my favorite in-ring performers was Kurt Angle, and I was actually fortunate enough, this is one of these things. I actually tweeted, and he says, I know who you are. I know you're working hard, but if you work very hard, maybe one day I'll give you the match if the timing's right. The next year, it was 2016. I'm only 3-4 years in the business at this point, but it was me and Kurt Angle, main event of a pay-per-view, Jim Ross and Jim Cornette commentating, and that's just proof that if you put your goals out there, these crazy things can happen. That same year, I went to an ROH tryout, and that initial movement there has led to where I am right now.
Amazing. Such a great story. And you mentioned about your wrestling experience, and you've been a big part of the wrestling scene in the United Kingdom. How proud are you of the exposure that it has received in the last few years?
Immensely proud to be a part of the British wrestling scene, and again, I've been a big part of it, but a lot of the hard work was done before I ever laced up a pair of boots. A lot of the foundations were put down before that kind of, 2010, 11, 12. And then when I entered in 13, things were starting to heat up a little bit. So there'd been a lot of hard work before me to bring the scene to that point. So I'm immensely proud of where the British scene has got to and the influence that we've had on the professional wrestling world.
Yeah, I imagine. So you even got to work in World of Sport for a bit, didn't you?
Yes, the modern incarnation of it, yeah.
What was that experience like after having fallen in love with it back in the day on the wrestling channel, and then getting to wrestle in World of Sport?
Yeah, it was really cool to be associated with that brand. Again, it was a very cool experience. I'm glad I got that timing wise. I got to do it. But I knew in my heart that my focus had to be on Ring of Honor. So I was actually fortunate in that when I'd wrapped up tapings there, I went on to do a UK tour with Ring of Honor. And the tour ended with this match with myself and Jonathan Gresham. And I was like, oh, man, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. I don't know how we're going to get it done, but we got to get it done. And, moving forward, my goals were at the start. That was in 2018, sorry. And then the start of 2019, I was like, I really need to see myself as a world champion. And that's the thing I want to get out there to people is you need to be humble and confident at the same time. You need to be humble in that you need to put in the reps and put in that work as if you're a world champion. Right from the get-go, you need to make it a lifestyle. Professional wrestling has to be your life. You need to eat, sleep, and breathe it. It has to be your absolute life. So be humble in that know that the work ethic, you can't be good enough just on your natural talent. You got to put in that work ethic as well. But at the same time, have the long-term confidence to say, I do see myself as a world champion, and that's what I see. And to me, the Ring of Honor World Championship is one of the most prestigious titles in all of professional wrestling. If you look at who's held that title, who's gone through the company, it's the absolute upper tier of professional wrestling has held that championship, and even the World Television Championship as well. So there's a lot of prestigious titles, if you will, in Ring of Honor, and that's what I'm here to focus on.
I couldn't agree more. I've always had such respect for Ring of Honor and the World Championship there. Gotten to know Kerry Silkin over the last few years, such a dear friend. Let me ask you, when you first turned on to Ring of Honor, what was it that drew you to Ring of Honor? Was it a certain personality? Was it just the style of it? Tell me the attraction to Ring of Honor.
What drew me to the product initially was the quality of the wrestling. That's the one thing that always cut through, was the quality of the wrestling, and that's something that's been consistent in Ring of Honor. Ever since I started watching it. I started watching it back in 2004, and that's the one thing that's always been there, is bell to bell, the quality of the wrestling. And that's a challenge for me. People see me as, an entertainer, but being in Ring of Honor forces me to prove to the world exactly what I can do in the ring.
You're absolutely right. Talking with Joe Hendry, the prestigious one, here on Sportscast Talking Wrestling. Again, follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Joe Hendry. So let's talk about your time in Ring of Honor. You came into Ring of Honor, and immediately there was this electricity, I guess is the best way to put it, or at the very least, charged rivalry with one Dalton Castle. Talk about your relationship with him, how it started, and the journey that has brought you to where you're going to team up at Final Battle.
The journey, well, here's the thing. When I got into Ring of Honor, I'm looking at Dalton Castle and I'm thinking, me and him have got to be the two biggest personalities in the company, the two biggest egos in the company. Can those two egos coexist in the same company? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking they can't. So I'm thinking, you got to go in, you got to take out the competition immediately. So that was the goal. But reluctantly at first, I found and realized that actually myself and Dalton had something in common, but also not only do we both have that legit amateur background and foundation, but we also have a different style of entertainment as well. When we're doing when you see our promos, we both got a very different style of comedy, and he catches me off guard. And I'm genuinely having fun and laughing whenever we're recording that stuff. So there's chemistry there, and we're thinking, you know what? Yes, we're both world champion caliber athletes. He's already won the world title, but together right now, we could be the most entertaining tag team in pro wrestling. And so that's what we're here to prove at Final Battle.
I couldn't agree more. I've had the opportunity to visit with Dalton many times, and you talk about an engaging personality, and just from the little bit I've heard from you here, I mean, it's the same thing. Absolutely engaging. The fan reception has been off the charts here lately. They've really warmed up to you guys, haven't they?
They have indeed. It's again, when the crowd loved Dalton Castle when I appeared in Atlanta. They weren't sure. They didn't know what they were going to make of the prestigious one. But even by the next day in Nashville, the people just couldn't help but be entertained by the personalities in the ring, whether we're at odds or on the same team. So we thought, you know what? Let's just pull in the same direction here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your match at Final Battle. You're going to face Silas Young and Josh Woods. They've been on a tear as a tag team lately. I think they're still undefeated. And it really does seem like the winner of this match is going to set themselves up really nicely for Ring of Honor World Tag Team title shot against whoever ends up being the champions after Final Battle, whether it's Lethal and Gresham or if it's the Briscoes. Give us your scouting report on Josh Woods and Silas Young.
I think that, again, if you look at Silas, he is a veteran of our business. He's got more experience than any of us in that match. So experience goes a long way in this business. He's held the World Television Championship for a long time in this company. So he's going to be very confident going in. Josh Woods as well is a national champion of amateur wrestling. People might not know that, but Josh's technical skills are as good as anybody's. It's at the highest possible level. Then you've got myself and Dalton. We've got our amateur backgrounds as well, the high level, both won championships. And we got the entertainment. But you know what? These guys have got the entertainment as well. They've been putting out some segments, and that's how this whole little beef started, because we saw them kind of stepping on our toes a little bit. We're the most entertaining tag team in pro wrestling. We take issue with that. They took issue with us, and we're going to settle in the ring like gentlemen.
And it is a really cool thing to see the amateur chops that the four of you have. You're two-time British amateur champion. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. Greco and freestyle.
And then you mentioned Josh Woods has a extensive background in amateur wrestling, as does Silas and
National
Dalton.
champion.
I mean, this is a lot. It's not just, yes, it's going to be absolutely entertaining, but there's some athleticism that's going to be incredible to watch in this match.
Absolutely. This match is going to embody my whole attitude towards Ring of Honor, which is people know me, people know Dalton for the entertainment aspect, but we've got that athletic background, and our goal is to bring people in with the entertainment and shock them with our athleticism.
Ring of Honor Final Battle. It is this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. The pre-show will start at 7 p.m., and I believe the pre-show is free on Honor Club. I believe it's on the Facebook page.
Absolutely free.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Hey,
we're giving
first
it away.
hour, and it's going to be your match, and I believe there's I forget the second match that's going to be on there, but it doesn't matter because your match is going to steal the show, right?
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
So, but check it out. The main card starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can catch it on Fight.tv, Ring of Honor Honor Club, and on pay-per-view. They'll be coming from the UMBC Event Center in Baltimore. Joe Hendry, follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Joe Hendry. Joe, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. I enjoy talking to you. I hope we get to have you back on the show very soon, but all the best to you. Safe travels to Baltimore, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you very much for having me anytime.